Is peace considered to be a woman's job? If we are speaking of Jeannette Rankin, it sure was. She influenced many people to become one step closer to having peace on earth. Being born in the era where women had no legal rights, she stepped up to change this. She served many of her years to make a difference for women in this world, and she achieved most of her goals. Even now, we are still seeing changes that have been inspired by her throughout the entire world. Born in Missoula, Montana on June 11, 1880, she was one of 7 children. Her mother was a school teacher and her father was a rancher. In their household, the Rankin children were raised with individualism and self-reliance. That is why many of these children became professionals in their careers. She followed in her mother's footsteps and became a lecture teacher. Afterwards, she tried out many different jobs that helped influence her understanding of social conditions first-handedly. It took her a few years to find exactly what she was passionate for. She found her calling not long after during the women's suffrage movement. She became active in driving to amend women's right in the state constitutions. In 1911, this amendment was passed. She returned to her home in Montana and became an influence to many, helping to pass women's right to vote. After having this law passed in Montana, the rest of the United States followed her influence. Women might not have had the chance to vote if it hadn't been for Rankin's undying passion for equality. In 1916, she became the first woman voted into Congress. Her charisma and strong disposition for peace helped her gain a variety of followers. She became known as a woman who fought for peace and equality. She claimed that her beliefs came from her home state and that they were in no way tied to her religion. She was a person who brought to our attention that women and peace were inseparable. This is why she had many women following in her steps. During her term in Congress, she was the only person ever to vote against the United States entering World War I and World War II. After her term was over, she became engaged in her social work. She continued to be an active member of the National Consumer League, an active member in the National Council for Prevention of War, and a field worker for Women's International League for Peace and Freedom. She helped promote peace habits as a step for women to involve their children in what was going on around them. In her later years, she funded a women's cooperative homestead in Georgia. With this, she established a way for women in need to find their way to a new life. The National Organization for Women then chose Rankin as the first inductee into the Susan B. Anthony Hall of Fame. She used this point in time to urge women that together they could implement a power that no man could break. Jeannette Rankin is known as a vigorous feminist and a lifetime pacifist and crusader for social and electoral reform. After her death on May 18, 1973, in Carmel, California, she was cremated and her ashes scattered on the ocean. A statue was placed in the Capitol Statuary Hall in 1985 to commemorate her tireless efforts on behalf of world peace and women's suffrage. Until this day, there it stands. Even after her death, she continues to touch lives, not just by her legacy, but because she seeded a scholarship foundation to help women further themselves in their careers. May her uniqueness and controversial ways continue to inspire us well into the next century.